Hi, I'm Dr. Michele Fiala of Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. I'm here to teach the Ferling Etude number 10, which is also part of this year's Louisiana All-State in 2015-2016. And as I mentioned before, the Ferling Etudes are, of course, very common etudes for the oboe. Before you prepare number 10, it's helpful to note that tempo di polacca means polka tempo. So a Polish dance, rather joyful and upbeat and light and dance-like. And when you're preparing this technically, I suggest preparing it several different ways. One is that you would want to play all the 16th note passages in different rhythms, both long, short, which I will demonstrate at the beginning of line 2. And then short, long, which can be more difficult to learn at first, but is an extremely useful rhythm once you get the hang of it. Notice that I put the short notes on the beat and the longer notes off the beat. Both of those patterns help you to get control of your fingers. Practice them all slurred and practice them at a tempo just slightly under what you can play the entire etude at. Use your metronome and make sure that all of the dotted rhythms sound exactly the same, dotted in the same manner. I demonstrated it on one passage, but it's useful throughout this piece. You will also want to practice your trills and those Nachschlags that follow them, which is a German word for that little trill finish that goes to the note below and then back to the note. For instance, in measure 4, I would practice the first 2 beats into beat 3. And make sure that I could play that rhythm accurately and that my trill was nice and even and fast. You have the same trill F to G in the 3rd line, and you'll just wiggle your first finger. That has some grace notes leading back into a return of the initial theme. So you'll practice that and make sure you can do that evenly and quickly. And then you have that trill in the 4th line in the 5th measure of that line. It's a D trill with those little Nachschlag after it. You may have only time for 1 turn of the trill plus the Nachschlag, or you might have time, depending on your tempo, for 2 turns. You will want to practice your high register fingerings. There is an F at the end of that line. You'll use your thumb octave, half hole, 2, your A flat and E flat keys, and 2 and 3 of your right hand. And then you just add 1 finger to get to the E. You'll also need to practice your tonguing for this etude. You'll notice several tongued passages, and you'll want to start each note with your tongue, but not stop the notes with your tongue. They'll sound long when you're playing it slowly, but by the time you speed the etude up, it will sound very light and separated in the way that staccato should. So you could practice with saying loo, 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 and start it in the 4th line on just the G, for instance. Keeping your tongue forward in your mouth, your embouchure round from the corners, and your support strong. That's that feeling we discussed earlier of blowing out the candles. The feeling of using your lower abdominals and your lower back muscles. Then you could do it in 8th notes, in triplets, and finally 16ths leading into the passage. And you notice that you get a really interesting musical contrast at this point in the 4th line. After you have that crescendo from forte into what would probably be fortissimo, you have an immediate drop back to piano. So you can make it exciting there. So you can look for musical contrasts throughout this. For instance, the last appearance of the theme happens in the 2nd to last line. And in the 2nd measure of the 2nd to last line, you have that diminuendo, and I might suggest that you might also pull back a tiny bit to really show your audience the return of the theme. I'll play from the pickups to the second measure of the second line from the end. So as in the etude number 7, look for the longer phrases and try to show those to your audience. I hope that these technical and musical ideas will help your practicing, and please let me know how it goes. Again, I'm Dr. Michele Fiala of Ohio University, and I also highly recommend Dr. Erin Hill's series of videos of the Ferling Etudes if you'd like to hear a complete performance of these etudes. Thank you for joining me today.